Hey there. Since learning how to balance in a head-in handstand, I've had lots of requests on how do we learn to balance in a head-in handstand. So I wanted to make a bit more of a tutorial explaining what the head-in is, the prerequisites that I use for my students to help them get there, and how we go about training it. The head-in handstand is basically a handstand with the chin touching the chest. You can be in any shape you like, but ultimately you want the chin touching the chest. Now, what makes it so challenging is that as the head moves, this transition becomes very disorientating for the body. First of all, the head doesn't like to move. If you stand on one leg and then start moving your head around, you'll notice you'll lose balance quite quickly. Same with a handstand. If you're in a handstand, you bring the head through, that transition of the movement itself will be very disorientating, and that's usually the hardest bit, which throws people off. But let's talk about some of the other components. So when the head comes through, what we're doing is we're bringing some of our center of mass from our fingertips or from overbalance in towards underbalance, towards the palms of the hand. What this means is the traps and the shoulders now have to work a little bit harder to keep us in open shoulder flexion. It also makes it easier to open into a nicer line or a more convenient shoulder flexion line. What this then means is that our pecs and our delts are no longer very good at helping us rebalance. So our shoulders aren't going to be great for rebalancing here, and instead the sensitivity in the hands increases. So now our hands become more fine-tuned when we're balancing and become a lot more responsible for providing the corrections to stay upright. So that's what a head-in handstand is. Now, the prerequisites. Before you start training towards a head-in handstand, it's good to have a few things. So what we know is that it becomes heavier in the traps. This means that it's useful to be able to hold a tuck handstand. So it's useful to be able to hold a handstand that's slightly heavier in underbalance for 15 to 30 seconds or so. This means you'll now have the strength required to hold a head in. We also want some good balance capability, capacity, and some general endurance in our handstand. I'd recommend a minimum of 30 seconds in a straight freestanding handstand. Some people would recommend a little bit more than that. I used to recommend 45 to 60, but recently I've trained students to be able to do head-in who haven't even reached 60 in a straight handstand freestanding yet. In fact, one of them was, I believe, below 30 seconds in his freestanding before he even reached a head-in handstand. So I don't think it's that necessary anymore. But having at least 30 seconds will mean that you have the awareness, some capacity, and some capability to rebalance over time. And the last prerequisite is the ability to change shape and adapt to the weight shift in the palms. So as the head comes through, as we've discussed already, we bring some weight from overbalance in towards underbalance. So it's good to be able to do this already or account for this in, for example, a straight to tuck transition. You can do straight to tucks, straight to straddles. It doesn't matter too much as long as you're confident in being able to counter the weight shift of a shape change, then you have the prerequisites for a head-in handstand shape change, or more like a head-in handstand transition. So now we have our prerequisites, we know what it is. How do we train the head-in handstand? Well, very simple. You want to treat it like you treated your handstand at the beginning, although it's just going to be a much faster journey. So instead of just trying it on the floor freestanding, you want to go back to the wall. Let's start with some head-in heel pull. Now, I would recommend to learn them with split legs. I will explain the reason a little bit later, but basically we're going to set up in a split leg position, in a heel pull back against the wall, and then from there we're going to use our fingertips to pull off the wall, come into balance, and then go back to the wall. You want to move away from this quickly and move towards the heel pull to balance drill, which basically means pull off the wall, hold for time. Now we're accumulating balance time in our head-in position, and then go back to the wall. If you can do this for 10 to 15 seconds, in theory, it means you have the capability to now do 10 to 15 seconds of balance on the floor without the wall. The hardest bit is going to be the transition. But anyway, next progression is to move to the floor. Now you're going to move to the floor and you're going to do it with split leg, because that's how we learned on the wall. So on the wall, we built the template of the split leg head in heel pull position. Now we're going to use that template freestanding. So we're going to come into a split leg freestanding handstand, and then we're going to slowly transition the head through. As you pull the head through, you want to think about trying to elevate the shoulders very lightly, a bit as in a bit more than what you would normally do, and hold there. Do not bring your feet together. Just work on bringing the head through and holding in your split leg position. And the final step is bringing the legs together. Well done. You have your head in freestanding handstand. I would recommend training the tuck head in at the same time as your straight head in. So anywhere between 5 and 10 sets on your straight and 5 and 10 sets on your tuck. You want to aim for about 5-second balances once you get to the freestanding progression after doing the wall work. And you want to accumulate between 10 and 20 sets per session. I would recommend a minimum of 3 sessions a week. We have to train it. We don't just play with it, don't just try. This is where people go wrong. They just try. Oh, I tried to do some head-ins the other day, but I couldn't quite get them. How do you do it? It's so difficult. Well, I didn't do it on my first session either. I was training it 4 times a week back in 2019, I believe. And I was doing it consistently. I wouldn't miss any sessions. It took a few weeks before I started getting my first couple of holds. Actually, I think it took 1 or 2 weeks before I first started getting my first 3-5 second holds. And then it just snowballed. It escalated really quickly. As soon as you get good at countering the head-in transition-in, so as soon as you're able to stop yourself from falling and stop yourself from moving around while doing the head through transition, you will pick up the balance very quickly, because the balance is pretty similar to balance in a normal freestanding handstand, just as I said, with less pecs and less delts. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed, and I hope this brings you some value. Please do let me know how you get on with your head in balancing. If you have any questions, just let me know below, and I will get back to you.